And now let's get right to it. First, the number 1 seeds, the big dogs. Of course, number 1 overall seed, Boston College. Greg Brown brought those freshmen in. They did not miss a beat. Will Smith, 67 points. That broke the BC record for most points by a freshman. They beat BU in the Hockey East final last night. BU number 2. The Denver Pioneers, another conference championship for them. They win the NCAA. And then Michigan State, they are back. Adam Nightingale brings them back as they win the Big Ten championship in overtime. Let's start with Boston College again, number 1 overall seed, as Greg Brown, their last championship. It's been a while now. 2012 for the Eagles, and they're just loaded up front.
Yeah, I mean, look, we talk all about the freshman phenom. Cutter Gauthier continues to impress, but Razor, I think the guy who doesn't get talked about enough is Fowler, the goaltender. How good was he through this Hockey East playoff season?
He was nails. They've won 12 in a row coming into the regionals. They feel unbeaten, and watching them at Hockey East, like you said, they're not perfect, but they're very close, and it's because of their goaltender, Jacob Fowler, and his ability to make the big save, the timely save at the right time, which allows the forward group that they have to be so aggressive and be up the ice and take the chances they get. To have the top penalty kill, the second power play, that's what makes them really difficult in a one-and-done situation as well.
Well, this is their third number 1 overall seed in program history, 2005, 2012, the previous 2 times. Let's unveil that bracket in Providence. Again, Colby and I will be there with the call, and you can see there it is, Boston College. Opponent number 1, 19, 14, and 6, Michigan Tech. Michigan Tech, their last championship, 1975. Last Frozen Four was 1981. They'll make their 3rd straight NCAA tournament for the first time since 1976. That's BC's first opponent.
Look, I think anytime you get into a one-and-done situation, you look to see how teams are. Michigan Tech, they finished the season on a 5-game winning streak, okay? They won 8 of their last 10 games. So this is a team, Razor, that's feeling pretty good about themselves, although, look, it's not fun to watch this bracket unveil and have to see the BC Eagles. I think we know all about them, right?
Well, that's the issue for Michigan Tech, but they have a grad goaltender, Blake Pietila, who can steal a game. That's what you're looking at this point when you're playing a Boston College team with all the offense. 920 save percentage, 228 goals against average this season. He's a guy who can find a way to steal a game for you, Michigan Tech.
Bottom of the bracket, there's the Wisconsin Badgers, Mike Hastings. Of course, he's never had a losing season in 12 seasons as a head coach. What a job he did at Minnesota State. Now he runs the Badgers, and guess who they get to see in the first round? That is the Quinnipiac Bobcats and Rand Pecknold. So we're going to have a Wisconsin-Quinnipiac first-round matchup. That's at the bottom bracket of Providence, the defending champs.
Look, this is going to be a big-time coaching matchup.
Yeah.
These are 2 coaches that like to put a plan in place. Their teams are both really detailed, really thorough, Razor. They don't turn a lot of pucks over. Teams that you don't want to play against in playoff times because of how thorough they play and how well they manage the puck.
Exactly. It's a goaltender's dream, to be honest, both of these guys to play behind these 2 teams. And Kyle McClellan, the senior at Wisconsin's up for the Richter Award, a Hobey Baker finalist. So this is going to be a tight battle out on the end. Not a lot of room for any of the players.
And, of course, Providence not too far from Hamden, Connecticut, so Quinnipiac will have some sort of presence in terms of fans there. So how about the Michigan State Spartans? What a job by Adam Nightingale and his staff. They're the Big Ten champions for the first time. They win in overtime last night against the Michigan Wolverines. Prior to this season, the Spartans hadn't had a 20-plus win season since the 2007-2008 season. But what a story there in Munn last night. Fantastic crowd on campus as Michigan State wins the game in overtime, and they are on their way to Missouri. There they are, Sparty 24-9-3, and they get to open up with Western Michigan. And I would be very careful for anyone playing Western Michigan, because at their best, it's really good. It's just about consistency.
Congratulations, Michigan State. You're a 1 seed. Now you got to play Western Michigan, a big, heavy, physical team. They were active in the transfer portal. They brought over Phillips. They brought over Colangelo. Granger's had a great year for them. We know they're well coached. This is a big-time matchup to start the NCAA tournament in this Missouri bracket.
And at the bottom half of the bracket, North Dakota. North Dakota's going to go up against, well, the other Big Ten. Look at this, Andrew.
This is
Michigan.
This regional is
Gauntlet.
bananas. It is an absolute gauntlet. It's so difficult to start out the tournament. And you look at North Dakota and Michigan, it doesn't get any fancier than that. So that'll be must-watch television to see this regional and who can survive that gauntlet.
And again, the issue there in Maryland Heights, Missouri, we only hold about 2,500, 3,000 fans in the St. Louis Blues practice facility. And you look at the schools that are there, how well North Dakota travels. I think there's going to be some fans in the parking lot while streaming this game on ESPN.
You will feel the atmosphere through your television at that regional in particular. We know how North Dakota fans travel so well. We know the passion that they bring. We know how loud they are. And then Michigan, Michigan State. I mean, this is a big-time region.
Yeah.
I mean, a gauntlet is the way to put it.
Yeah, could have a Big Ten rematch if Michigan and Michigan State can move on. Coming up on the men's selection show here on ESPNU. 8 down, and we got 8 teams to go. Coming up, remaining 2 brackets are revealed. I'll talk with committee chair Jeff Schulman, again, about that attendance situation in Maryland Heights, Missouri, and some of the things the committee looks at that they go by, their principles that they use. Also, Greg Brown, Boston College. Brad Barry of North Dakota join us to talk about the tournament. Oh, coming up next, and there is BC right there. Clap for yourself, boys. Yeah, go ahead. Golf clap, golf clap. We'll talk to their coach, Greg Brown, when we return. Also, how about the Denver Pioneers conference champions? Who will they play next? BU as well. It's all next on the Selection Special. Welcome back to the Men's Selection Special. John Butchergoff, Colby Cohen, Andrew Raycroft with you. And how about the Boston University Terriers? Losing the Hockey East Final last night to Boston College. They're the 2nd overall seed, or 1 seed for the first time since 2015. That's when Jack Eichel and the Terriers lost in the title game to Providence College. Brandon Tanev scored the big game-winning goal late in the 3rd period as Nate Lehman brought the BC Friars their first national championship in school history. So BU, they could have been in Springfield playing, but instead they fly to Sioux Falls. And RIT, the Tigers, are going to be their first opponents as BU and Jay Pandolfo head out again to Sioux Falls. Meanwhile, the bottom half of the bracket, Minnesota Golden Gophers. Bob Motzko, of course, losing in the championship game last year. Back-to-back Frozen Four appearances. NCAA runner-up finish last year, and they go up against Omaha. A great finish to their season. They did not look like they were going to make the tournament late January, but they have gone on a run. So what do you think about this region? Of course, Colby Cohen, 2009 national champion with the BU Terriers.
Look, I think you've got a couple of big-name schools in this region, and I think you've got a couple of teams maybe that don't get the same notoriety that can hurt you. I think that there's a lot of skill. There's a lot of goal-scoring ability in this region. I think Minnesota's got a lot of underclassmen that have been pretty impressive, that have continued to grow their games. But at the end of the day, you can't talk about this region without talking about Macklin Celebrini. Mm-hmm. I mean, what this guy has done as a 17-year-old, I mean, he's worth staying in on a Friday or Saturday night, which I know we do at my house, to watch Macklin Celebrini. He's that good.
He's electric, along with Lane Hudson and the power play that they have, number 3 in the country. Omaha's interesting, losing to Denver last night in the championship game. They come in hot, real hot, and can provide a lot of problems. You talk about a big, heavy team, and a one-and-done game can always provide difficulty. So it's an interesting regional when it's skill versus power.
And, of course, RIT, the oldest team among D1 teams. So that's something BU and their young players have to deal with as the Tigers get it done, and they're heading back in the tournament under Wayne Wilson, first time since 2016. How about the Denver Pioneers? They win the NCHC last night. They beat Omaha in the title game. So it's head coach David Carl, of course, won that championship in 2022. 9th head coach in program history. He's led the Pioneers to 4 tournament appearances, 2 Frozen Four berths, and that 2022 national championship in Boston. So the Pios, by process of elimination, as you know, are heading to Springfield. And, boy, they got a tough opening draw. They have to play the UMass Minutemen. It's about a half hour from campus. They are the host school, so I guess they got to be there to serve the cupcakes or something. I'm not sure, but that's an ESPN2 game, Thursday at 2. And then the bottom part of the bracket, interesting, this is a place where UMass and Maine and Cornell can all buy tickets and drive to the drive to the rink there in Springfield. Maine, back in the day, they traveled like North Dakota traveled.
Yeah, this is another interesting geographical setup, the way the committee got into it this year, bringing Denver all the way across from the west all the way out to the east, Razor. But you look at the skill that Denver has, all the goal-scoring ability, tons of guys with 30-plus points. The other three teams in this region are all tighter defensively, and they all play similar heavy puck management style types of games. So there's definitely a little bit of a contrast between what you'll see out of Denver and those other three teams.
Denver will be playing 2 road games out there. If they win the first game, they're playing road games out there against, like you said, very structured teams, very stringent defensive teams. Ian Shane and Cornell had some experience last year, beat and got lost to BU last year in the regionals, beat Denver University, had a shutout, 27-save shutout. So there's a lot of contrast, like you said there, and it'll be interesting if Denver can outscore on the road.
You know the other thing about this region? Some really good coaches in this region.
Yeah.
I mean, top to bottom with David Carl. These guys have all, Carvel and Ben Barr, they won a national championship together. David Carl has taken college hockey by storm with his ability to coach. It's a lot of talent behind the bench in that region.
And Mike Schaefer as well, certainly at Cornell, the Big Red as well. So, that's going to be a good one. So here we are, bids by conference. Big Ten, Hockey East, NCHC, all 4 each. ECAC got a couple of squads, and then, of course, the automatic bids for CCHA and Atlantic Hockey Conference champions. And there is the committee chair, Jeff Schulman, also the AD at Vermont UVM. He joins us now here on the Selection Show. Okay, Jeff, I know there's host schools, and UMass certainly is the host school up there in Springfield, just a half hour from their campus. As they get to stay now there and play Denver, where BU, the 2 overall seed, has to go to Sioux Falls to play RIT. Why not just flip-flop that and have BU play RIT? They had a great season. They get to play in Springfield. They can drive to the game. And UMass and Denver closer to their school as well, and they play at Sioux Falls.
Yeah, there's several bracketing principles that our committee is working with. One of those is that we're committed to keeping schools that are hosting a regional at their host site. And as you mentioned, UMass is the host of the Springfield region. So we had to keep UMass there. And as a 4 seed, we're not able to match them up with BU because that's an intra-conference matchup, which is something else that we do our best to avoid. So several bracketing principles that ultimately dictate, where we send teams, and that's how it played out this year.
Any other bracket philosophies that the fans out there aren't quite aware of, who might have questions that would help them understand why some teams end up where they do?
Yeah, the 3 big ones for us are that we're trying to avoid intra-conference matchups in the first round. We're committed to keeping hosts at their host regional, so that affected both UMass and Omaha this year, Omaha being the host of the Sioux Falls regional. And we also worked really hard to create an exciting championship atmosphere, good crowds, and we think we've accomplished that with this year's bracket.
That Missouri bracket is really loaded. You got some great schools there, Michigan State, Western, North Dakota, Michigan. Attendance only around 2,500 there. You might squeeze in 500 more, SRO. There's going to be some frustrated fans who probably aren't going to go to the game, as some of those schools travel pretty well. Was there any way, as this approach, that why do you end up there in the end, and maybe you couldn't move it somewhere else?
Yes, as I said before, we're trying to balance a lot of things in terms of putting together the bracket. We're very aware that there's some brand name programs that are at the St. Louis regional. It's not as large as some of our other venues. We think we'll be able to pack 3,000 or a few more in that facility. All the schools will still have access to the same number of tickets that they would if they were at a larger venue, but it's certainly going to be a tough ticket and an exciting bracket.
Yeah, it's going to be a great environment, that's for sure, with a sold-out place there in Missouri. Well, the former defenseman for UVM, Jeff Schulman, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Thanks, John.